Hi, everyone. Carl Steinbeck. Wasn't planning on jumping on here tonight, but I thought I need to jump on and cover an issue that has really been on my mind a lot since last night when I did the live stream, and I've been talking it over with my attorney wife Leslie, and it just really makes me wonder what else is out there that could be covered to help Karen Reed, and what actually is the truth. And so I'm looking for the truth more than anything. And as it turns out, the more you look into the truth, the more it does help Karen Reed, which is one of the issues that I find throughout my many thousands of criminal cases. The more you dig into the facts, the more you'll have clarity on what really went on. Or if you don't have clarity, then you'll have reasonable doubt and realize you can't charge somebody or shouldn't be charging somebody. So in this particular case, what we have is the prosecution is claiming Karen used her Lexus SUV to strike Boston police officer John O'Keefe out along the side of the road on 34 Fairview Drive, which is in Canton, Massachusetts. And this was supposedly happening sometime around 12:30, 12:45. But what's interesting, when you go back and look at the first trial, is that's a moving target. So if you look at the presentation and argument of the evidence and the argument by Assistant District Attorney Lally, that really is a moving target of when they're saying this actual crime occurred. And so when they don't have it locked down on when it occurred, and they're changing their tune based on which witnesses testifying, what evidence is presented, then really what it does is provide Karen an alibi. And so I just wanted to go tonight and show you a couple links my wife pulled together and show you how this evolving theory and wild speculation theory by the prosecution on how this went down, how it evolved during the trial. So what I'm going to first play here is Lally in his opening statement. And then I'm going to jump to a couple other items, and you'll see we'll finish with his closing, and then we'll talk about what actually alibi is and how it could be helpful to the defense. So with that, let me see here. I'm going to present. One second. Okay, so listen to this now.
Instruction section within the Massachusetts State Police. His examination of the vehicle, his examination of the scene.
Talking about Trooper
examination Paul. Of specifically some Toyota texture, because Lexus is essentially owned by Toyota or vice versa. So there is some data that he's able to recover from that and back the vehicle up based on its known locations and travel. He cycles, essentially opines, he'll opine that around 12:45 in the morning, when the vehicle was in front of the residence on Fairview, that for some perceptible period of time, that vehicle travels over 60 feet in reverse at over approximately 24.2 miles per hour.
Okay, so right there, he's saying it's 12:45, right? So that's what he's telling the jury. He expects the evidence is going to show. All right, so move that one out of the way. Then we have here Trooper Paul. Let's see what he has to say.
Can we continue?
If you could, please.
Okay.
What, if any, conclusions did you come to through the course of your investigation?
So on Saturday, January 29th, 2022, at approximately 12:45.
So you can look at your report, but you can't read your report.
I can read my conclusions based on what they asked me to do. Okay.
Yeah. So I can't hear you.
Sorry.
Okay. So, just take your time, read your report, and then answer Mr. Lally's question. And if you need to look at your report, we'll see about that again.
All right.
Ask the question, Mr. Lally.
Based on the totality of your investigation, what, if any, conclusions did you come to with regard to how this collision occurred?
So this collision occurred on Saturday, January 29, 2022 at approximately 12:45 hours.
There you go,
A
12:45.
2021 Lexus LX 570 was traveling southbound on Fairview Road, in area 34 Fairview Road.
Yeah.
It appears that.
So,
Sorry, I'm trying to
so
upload it.
you know what? I don't, Mr. Lally.
So he says it a total of 3 times in a couple minutes here. I won't go over all 3 of them, but you can see that for yourself. And then let's look at what Jen McCabe has to say about it. A lot of things I got to click here, but so far it's working out.
After you arrived and you noticed this SUV outside, you started paying somewhat close attention to it, did you not?
I went to the front door and looked out the window at the vehicle, yes.
As a matter of fact, you texted as soon as you saw the vehicle, that 12:27 here, correct?
Correct.
And then a few minutes later, at 12:31, you texted, "Pull behind me," to John. Is that right?
Correct.
And then
12:31.
at 12:40, you texted, "Hello," correct?
Correct.
And at 12:42, you texted, "Where are you?"
Correct.
And at 12:45, you texted, "Hello," correct?
Correct.
So that's 5 text messages. And each time you texted him, you were walking to the door and looking out at the vehicle as you're texting, correct?
I know for the first 2 I was.
In grand jury, she
You
said,
testified at another
much
hearing,
more every
another
time.
proceeding on June 8th, 2023, correct?
Correct.
In that other proceeding, did you testify that you got up and sat down and got up and sat down every time you were texting?
Possibly.
Okay, so if you got up and walked over to the door and you see the SUV and you text,
Mhm.
and then you walk away from the door and sit down for a second, that would be one text and one view of the SUV, correct?
Yes.
So if you did that at 12:27, 12:31, 12:40, 12:42, and 12:45, you'd agree that's 5 times that you were up and down looking at the SUV, correct?
I'm not sure if I did it 5 times.
How many times do you think you did do it?
I know I definitely did it the first when I said here. I know I definitely did it when I said pull behind me, because that's when the vehicle had moved up a little bit.
And then did you see the vehicle move up again? A second time?
Yes, that's when I told him to pull behind me.
Okay, so that's the first time. So just so we're clear, when you first saw the SUV, it was stationary, correct?
When I first saw the vehicle, it was straight ahead out the front door, stationary.
And you texted here.
Correct.
Then you walked back over to the window, or I'm sorry, to the door, to the storm door, and you said, pull behind me, correct? At 12:31.
Correct.
All right, at that point, you saw that it had moved up a little bit, is that right?
Yes.
Okay, so if you saw it move up a second time, which you just said you did, then that would be a third time that you had to have seen it and texted, correct?
Why would that be third time?
Because it only moved once so far. You saw it move twice.
So the first time I saw it, it was here. And I said here. And then the next time I texted, I said, pull behind me. So that was 1 time, 2 times.
Keep going. You said you saw it pull up again, a second time. So you saw it move twice.
From one place to the flagpole to further up.
Right, so that's 3 times that you're up to the door.
Okay.
Is that yes?
I'm telling you, my memory is twice to the door.
Mr. McCabe, it's not a trick question. You just testified that you saw the car move twice. By definition, that has to be, you looked at it 3 times. Stationary, move once, move twice.
Maybe I used the wrong wording.
Maybe. I'm gonna have just a moment, Your Honor.
Sure.
Okay, so there you have it. They're locked into this time frame where the vehicle was still out there after up till 12:45, and that's what they've been saying through the trial, right? So let's move ahead. I won't. We covered Jen's already, so I will move on from her, and then let's go to the closing for Lally. Because keep in mind, the Wi-Fi data at John O'Keefe's place showed that Karen was connected to his Wi-Fi at 12:36 a.m. So 12:36 a.m., it's a 6 or 7 minute drive over there. So she would have left around 12:29, 12:30 from the front of the Albert House at 34 Fairview. So that is her alibi, because they're saying something happened to John around 12:45, and there was people that are in the yard. If you listen to the testimony of Ryan and his sister Julie, there's a Heather and one other individual that are in the pickup truck waiting out there about 5-6 minutes, and they left right before Karen did, and they never saw an occupant in the vehicle besides Karen. They saw 2 occupants in the vehicle when they turned onto Fairview, and then they didn't pay attention apparently when John got out of the vehicle. And then Ryan says when he left with his pickup, he passed Karen, and she was alone in the vehicle. He noticed that she was alone, a woman with long hair. So she was not having any occupants in the vehicle with her, and so that really shows that nothing had happened up until 12:29, 12:30ish, and for Karen then to have to be back and be able to be on the Wi-Fi at 12:36, it shows that she wasn't there. Okay, so let's go look at this closing argument here now. Hold on a second. I got to share it first. Here we go. Let me expand it. Okay, so this is, if you notice right before this part where they show an aerial view, they give a timeline, and the timeline stops here at 10:54 p.m. So you see right here, it says Karen and John arrived at Waterfall. Karen receives drinks 8 and 9. So they're saying that they're going to cover all these drinks. They show all the exhibits. But then if you look ahead to the closing, he jumps ahead to showing an aerial view right here. And then look at the next timeline they give. Right here, they show January 29th. Look at this, 12:30 a.m., second trigger event, 8 minutes after 3-point turn, vehicle in reverse at 24.5 miles per hour. So right there, they're saying it happened at 12:30. And then they're saying here at 12:36 that Karen's phone connects to the Wi-Fi at One Meadows. So how does the phone of Karen connect when she's supposedly still at Fairview? So she can't be 2 places at one time. So that's what I think is very interesting, is that they changed the time frame in the arguments, and also through the testimony. The testimony of the trooper is not squared with the actual Wi-Fi connection, and that also means Jen's testimony is inaccurate in comparison to the Wi-Fi. As far as the vehicle and any kind of computer printouts, those are I would say are very problematic to begin with. It's newer technology. I even had somebody call me up saying their computer's all messed up. They bring it into the dealership. The dealership says their computer says it's all fine. Yet they keep getting stranded alongside the interstate when they travel. because the car shuts off. So obviously computers of cars not working right are very frequent and common. So, and then like somebody was commenting here, was he transcribing the report? Did he get the numbers wrong or something like that? So I think that when you look at this timeline, the timeline actually shows an alibi for Karen Reed. So I think that the other thing is I wanted to show to you. Whoops. I want to show a PDF. Okay, right here. I guess I did it. Okay, good. I was not sure I could pull that off. But if you look here, this is what we have for jury instructions. I don't know if it's current for Massachusetts or not, but this is an alibi instruction. I had one alibi type case. It was so many years ago. I think it was like in 1995-ish or so, 94, 95. And anyway, I don't even remember how it turned out, but I remember the alibi it was an issue, and the instructions here, this is what would be read to a jury by the judge. So Judge Canoni would be arguing this if the alibi instruction comes in. And here it says, you have heard testimony suggesting that the defendant was not present at the time and place when the offense charged in the complaint is alleged to have occurred. Such testimony is commonly referred to as alibi evidence. Now, I caution you not to give the word alibi any sinister connotation. It is only a shorthand phrase for a very important issue in this case. Did the defendant commit the crime as charged, or was he or she elsewhere at the time and therefore necessarily innocent? In considering this matter, remember that the Commonwealth has a burden of proving beyond reasonable doubt that the defendant committed the offense charged, and of course, this includes proving that the defendant was present at the scene and not elsewhere at the time. So right there, they have their own timeline messed up, and Karen is back at the house, so that means she was only there about from 12:23 or 12:24 to around 12:29, 12:30-ish. And you had all that activity coming and going out of the yard. And you also had, what's her name? Jen looking out the door frequently. So let's go on and look at the rest of this. It says here, the defendant has no duty to call witnesses or produce evidence on this or any other element of crime. Well, here you got the state's own evidence that's showing that she has an alibi through that digital means. And then they have here, if there's evidence of a complete alibi. In this case, you have heard evidence suggesting the defendant was, and then you fill in the blank where, and that, so that would be at John O'Keefe's house, and put in the address and mention how far away it is. And then at the time when the offense was committed, you have to decide whether or not you believe that evidence. Obviously, if you believe it, then the Commonwealth has failed to prove the defendant's guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. You must find him or her not guilty. But even if you disbelieve some or all the evidence, that doesn't necessarily mean the defendant is automatically guilty. You must still find, based on all the elements and evidence, that the Commonwealth has proved the defendant's guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. Then here's another good instruction here. It says, please give this issue your careful consideration, since in some cases an alibi may be the only refuge of an innocent person. After you consider all the evidence, if the Commonwealth has proved beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant was present and committed the crime as charged, then you should find the defendant guilty. If, on the other hand, if you have reasonable doubt about the defendant's presence at the time and place of the offense or any other element of crime, then you must find him or her not guilty. So here, that is there's very favorable information for the jury to consider. And I think based on the fact that the first jury didn't really get this time frame really broken down well and digested well, for them not understand that, I think is a huge issue. And if they weren't using or allowed to use any kind of exhibits, big blown up exhibits describing this different time data, then the time data stamps and all that can get lost in the shuffle, and they can get really forgetful of that. So and then they go back there and they think, well, they don't realize there's a time discrepancy here. So I think this whole issue that the prosecution can really hit on right here is that please give this issue a careful consideration, since in some cases an alibi may be the only refuge of an innocent person. Now, the one nuance to this case I see that's different than a normal alibi. Normal an alibi defense is such that you don't dispute where the actual crime happened. So, for example, if a stolen vehicle, or if it's an assault, or here we have a murder case involved, so that would be something that you don't dispute. You know, where those crimes happen, you just say, well, you got the wrong person, and because this person was in a completely different location. In other words, those of you who've been following the Adelson case, think about Jeff Lacasse, the guy that was set up as a fall guy. He had an alibi. He was targeted to make it look like he was a jilted lover that wanted to kill Professor Markell. He thankfully had an alibi, and he left a day earlier when what Wendy Adelson realized, and he was up in Tennessee. So, and he drove pretty close to Dan's house, and was planning to drive by Dan's house right during the time the actual murder was committed. So thankfully, he was able to be exonerated by that kind of digital evidence. Well, that same kind of digital evidence, and he had like receipts and stuff from Walmart up in Tennessee, and they have them on video camera and stuff like that going in the Walmart, and credit card receipts and all that kind of stuff. So anyway, the thing here is that you got digital evidence supporting the fact that Karen was already back at John's house at 12:36. You also had the fact that she started dialing up the phone. Remember, she called around 12:37 and started lighting up his phone and saying, "Where the heck are you?" And "I'm here with your kids," and that kind of stuff. So it's very much something that I don't. Based on what nuance, maybe you need to have a hybrid version of this where you have in dispute where the actual injuries that caused the blunt force trauma that helped be a contributing factor in John O'Keefe's death. And so if I think what you have is a variance to this where you basically say that, where the location of the death and injuries are in dispute between the prosecution and defense. Defense is arguing that they happened at a different location inside the house. And so this is, I think either way, I think defense should be allowed to have this kind of an instruction to help set the timeline and really helps exonerate Karen in that regard. So that's something that you have to give notice for normally. Prosecution can ask for it. So I don't know what has been provided with regard to the documents and requests for documentation and any affirmative defenses. This is a kind of affirmative defense where you're trying to prove your innocence, and I think it's really, really strong evidence to be considered. So this kind of jury instruction to really highlight it for a jury that maybe not able to be tracking all these different timelines, because there is a lot of data here to digest for a jury. And if the judge isn't allowing exhibits, then at least having some kind of jury instruction like this is very crucial and beneficial. So you don't have a jury falling asleep at the switch and this calling these distractions, the timelines of these other witnesses and whatnot. So with that, I think when you have that kind of moving target, the prosecution doesn't have stuff pinned down properly. And you got people all over the map for the prosecution. They all got their lawyers lined up. You got the bodily injuries to John O'Keefe. They don't line up with a vehicle injury. And I can just tell you, like, if any of you have done any kind of driving in reverse at 24, 25 miles an hour and see what it's like to have that kind of impact. There is like the ARCA witnesses said, you're going to have like 1,000 pounds per square inch of pressure exerted on a body that it hits. And so it is pretty imposing to have that kind of vehicle come at you. And, somebody like John would know a vehicle like that's coming after him that fast, and to go that fast in that snow and be that, probably how do you brake going that fast on that kind of slick road? You'd probably, hit the curb, run into the mailbox. You'd probably have your the rims of the Lexus all ripped up with concrete gouges into them and stuff like that. So anyway, it just did a sort of recreation of that tonight with Leslie, and we're thinking, yeah, if anybody sort of does that recreation themselves to see how fast the car is coming at you going 24. Obviously, I had Leslie stay far away enough from the street that there wasn't an issue of safety concerns. But in any event, it's very much, I think, this timeline here that also the 24 miles an hour. I mean, yeah, it probably was something about when they're spinning the car trying to get out of the snow the next day. So in any event, all these signs also, if you think about the behavior, what I look a lot is like what is considered normal behavior versus erratic behavior, unusual and strange behavior. You know, all of Karen's behaviors is consistent with somebody who's mad that their boyfriend didn't come back out of the house. He had a history of being unreliable this way in different ways. And so there was issues between them. It wasn't always peaceful between them. So and she wasn't going to be left out there in the car, and so she decided to leave. And then she called him up and was very upset because John just completely ghosted her in her mind. So it's not consistent with somebody that just goes from flash to bang, trying to, you know, have a loving, endearing time at the bar and just taking it easy to all of a sudden becoming a homicidal maniac. And you know, it just normally doesn't happen that way. And so what you also compare it to then is those factors with the people in the house, and all their testimony, the way they can't get their story straight, the way they try to get their story straight, the way you got a Boston police officer at that house that doesn't wake up that morning, despite all that commotion going on outside the house. If you really believe all that, and then, you know, where's the dog? They have a German Shepherd dog. He wasn't supposedly there. And then, you know, think about it, like we've talked about with Jen doing that. Why is she so focused on John O'Keefe, a guy she says she loves? And why was that time gap from the time she last texted him around 12:14? Then she starts that back up at 12:27, looking out the window all the time. And then just never follows up to say, hey, what's going on? Never calls Jen either. Excuse me, Jen never calls Karen when she couldn't get a hold of John. So none of these things of Jen adds up. None of the things of the other witnesses adds up. I think that, you know, what sounds reasonable is what like Ryan was saying about how he drove up and he didn't see John in the vehicle when he's passing by it. So in any event, when you look at the injuries as well, the injuries are not consistent with a motor vehicle accident. And we do have this retired North Carolina trooper on the chat here as well, and he's saying none of this adds up to any kind of a vehicle strike on a human. Yeah, hopefully Terry Macbeth, they will be able to get a timeline up there. I mean, this is what Lally had presented. So hopefully they'll be circling and highlighting this as well. So I'm going to go ahead and take some questions here. I'm not going to do a full coverage tonight like I normally do, up to 2 hours, but yeah, 24 miles an hour. Natalie Joni, you're saying anyone understand the physics of how far he would have been projected? I mean, at 24 miles an hour, you're going to, with a tall vehicle like that, you're not going to be thrown high in the air like Trooper Paul was saying. You're pretty much going to be dropped down. You're going to be initial jolt. Maybe you'll be horizontal. Then after that, you're going to drop down. And I mean, that take a long time to stop. So they say for 24 miles an hour, roughly 23 point something for 62 feet. I mean, if you went that fast in that snow, you'd need more than 62 feet just to stop. So that is also not taken into account. Well, how would it have stopped if it's going that fast? Then you got the cracked taillight issue. You see in the cracked taillight on the vehicle when it's being towed is completely different than what they had in the Sally Port. Then the Sally Port video, which was reverse mirrored. Then you have the issue of these different parts of it being found out in the snow much later. So all this kind of stuff that adds up to this really strange behavior, strange erratic circumstances that do not comport with normal activity. I would say that that you would see in any kind of case that doesn't have some kind of people trying to get their story straight and manufacturing things to deflect attention. Yeah, Jamie, you're saying the 25 miles an hour in reverse and the 3-point turn happened in Mansfield while cops sees Karen Reed's car. Cops fudge the key cycle report fact. Yeah, I mean, when you stop to think about it, why would Karen have done a 3-point turn? I'm not sure if you're just dropping a guy off. Why would you do anything other than just pull up to the driveway by the mailbox? He gets out, or you pull ahead if you know another car's coming behind you, and then he gets, you just keep it there until, which is directly in front of the front door, and then you wait till the person comes back and gives you a report of whether it's worth going in or not to the party. Yeah, Terry LaBeth, you're saying I can only get up to 15 miles an hour on a country road on a clear day and felt out of control after 10 miles an hour. Yeah, when I was driving, up to 25, that was really fast. I felt you could easily be out of control. And to be going that fast in those kind of conditions, I just don't buy it. I just don't buy it. I don't care what any report says. Um, like I say, computers on vehicles are very problematic oftentimes. Red Pepper Flake, you're saying 80 foot to stop from 24 miles an hour in wet conditions. Yeah, here wet. Here you have snow, so it'd be even take longer. Don't know if any Tesla like that has been done, but yeah, if you're going 24 miles an hour, you're gonna be sliding a lot in that kind of condition. Jamie, you're saying the key cycle that Paul showed was not, I think you're saying not the original key cycle report. So yeah, I don't trust what he was reporting on. So I just don't believe that because we know Karen wasn't there. We know Karen wasn't there because she was connected to the Wi-Fi at John's house. That's how we know that the vehicle data is not correct. Hank's lack of grace, you're saying, how do you stand at the door but don't see your back over John O'Keefe? You don't, never happened. Yeah, it's just, none of this makes sense for the prosecution. And they all got lawyers. I saw a few comments. People say, oh, well, it's normal. People get lawyers. So it's not if you're just a witness of a case. It doesn't matter if defense counsel is saying, hey, we think you're the one that did it. People like that, especially cops, they don't hire lawyers. Nobody hires lawyers. The state is totally in their pockets. They don't need any lawyers, but people get to hire lawyers when oftentimes they're scared of things going south on them. So if you tell the truth, you don't need somebody to help coach you. Yes, we've watched Microdots, and so they give some good timelines, and that's sort of what, like I say, yes, last night, that's what sort of fed me to talk about this timeline that Leslie's put together for me to pull those right on target. John Philman, you're saying if you go 24 miles per hour in reverse, how do you stop, hit the brakes, and pull it in gear to drive? Yeah, Natalie, Joni, you're saying why did not one ring camera on the entire route have Karen Reed's Lexus showing the tail light after she left 34 Fairview? They didn't look for those kind of that kind of information. They didn't even take photographs at the crime scene, right? There's no photographs of her light at the crime scene. Are there pictures of the broken light in the snow there? It's just none of this stuff was handled as a investigation. It wasn't even a botch investigation. It was a complete hack job. Thanks, Go Irish. Yeah, there's a car video that showed it getting up on the tow truck, the tilt bed tow truck, where it was driven up on top there. Took him a couple times. The wheels were spinning and stuff like that. So, yeah, as far as blood alcohol content, I mean, she was back to John's place and also drinking there, so that would totally throw off any blood alcohol content. Great point by the retired officer. No crash report, no bruises, no broken bones. End of story. Deborah Claire saying Proctor was all over that taillight in the Sally port. Paul Sutton has a Toyota Prado similar to the Lexus, and I bashed into it so much bush and I've jackknifed the trailer. I have a small crack in the taillight, not anything like the way that taillight is. So, yeah, depending how much pressure you have on a jackknife. Prado, I take you overseas somewhere because Prados, or else maybe some other parts of the Americas, because we don't have Prados here in America, but same manufacturer, like you're saying. JJ saying, I honestly don't think Reed knows what she did. Snowstorm at night, etc. I mean, that could be very well that she doesn't have memory. I know. I've had clients that say they don't have memory of what exactly happened, and they're charged with a crime, and they basically had blackout. And it always happens from hard liquor, and so hard liquor can really mess with your mind and make people do things that are completely out of character. And so I would say if she's having those, I think it was vodka and Coke or something like that, those kind of hard drinks with the shots and all that kind of stuff, you do have a chance to not remember certain things. I'll tell you that. So, in any event, definitely don't want to be behind a wheel if you're drinking hard liquor. I just tell folks don't drink it and drive at all, because if you get pulled over and you get into some kind of accident, what do you tell the cops? You had one or two. I mean, that's what everybody says if they're completely way over the legal limits. So just better not to drink and drive at all. Yeah, actually, I actually can speak from personal experience about that as well. Because one time when I had hard liquor, um, there was I just basically, was still awake, but I don't remember much of that period. So after that, I never had hard liquor after that. That's when I was in high school. Scared me that bad. I'm like, I'm never touching that stuff again. Yeah, Jamie, you're saying the original Keyside report looks nothing like Paul's. He fudged it into Excel. Well, hopefully the defense counsel would catch that. I'm not sure. Thank you. Yeah, I've seen some of that as well. Rainy Day Girl saying, see the taillight smashing video. It's great. The red glows without the red shell. Super demo in the dark. So, Eva, you're asking, will you contact the defense team with this? Yeah, I'm not sure. I guess maybe I could do that. And yeah, maybe I could forward them this here. Yes, officer, I do believe there should be some kind of a crash report, some kind of write-up. I've not seen what the copy of it looks like, but it's just very, very troubling how this was handled. I mean, this is like fifth graders could have done better with no experience in law enforcement. Kristen from Montana, you're asking, why would Yannetti not give the opening statement? He was so powerful. Yeah, I think, you know, some of the stuff with Yannetti, I would say that he's done some good stuff. Some areas, I think you need somebody that's got more street savvy type of fighter instincts. And so, but overall, I mean, the facts are the main things driving this case. The government just doesn't have the facts on their side. So, Jam, you're saying Hank can't prove anything. Now he's going after lawyers and taking cheap shots. I mean, they're trying to drag everything in the kitchen sink to try to get after. I mean, it's the most I would say hate-filled vengeance type of prosecution I've ever seen. I mean, when you go to attorney-client privilege stuff like that, you're way outside you're way outside the bounds of the law. Excuse me. Okay, Natalie Jeannie, you're saying they have a retired Easter tech expert that has done geofencing on John's phone. Okay, I've not heard about that. Harmony Ricky, you're saying when you first heard of this case, you immediately thought foul play. Hank's lack of grace, you're saying Commonwealth has 0 case because she never hit John, period, case over. You know, I don't, you know, the thing is, if you don't know exactly what happened, that's reasonable doubt. There's no way the state can say, we know this is what happened. There's no way they can say that with a straight face. Yeah, the snowplower driver didn't see anything, says Jam. Wild Rider saying, how did the taillight pieces stay at the scene for days, weeks? Other vehicles, plows, wind, etc., would have moved or crushed them. Thanks, John Daly. It's not just me, you know, collectively, I don't have all the details and nuances on this case like some of y'all that have been following it from A to Z, but I'm getting there, and I would say that you know, like I say, the more you look at this, the more you're scratching your head, shaking your head, going, man, what is it? What are they doing? These guys are just the most cutthroat prosecutor's office you will ever see. And then you got the judge that basically is siding with them all the time. Just very, very much a rigged system, as I call it. Yeah, A, you're saying my thoughts on Brian Higgins. Your instincts from day one. He had a snowplow on his Jeep, and nobody investigated him deeper. Doesn't own this vehicle anymore. I think you mean to say maybe not intentional, but the cuts. Yeah, I don't think anybody intentionally tried to kill John O'Keefe that night. I don't think he was like necessarily set up, although it could look like they're trying to separate Karen from him. But the way Jen was trying to get her to go with her out, leaving the bar, despite the fact that it was Karen's vehicle there, that Lexus. So probably just something, you know, went south and then people got scared and were afraid to do the right thing. And next thing you know, the guy's dead. So I don't think this is any kind of premeditated murder. I think it became a callous indifference to what happened once he was injured. And it does look like some kind of like he got beat up. What was that? Even John O'Keefe's brother Paul said it looks like he got did like a bunch of rounds with Mike Tyson, a professional boxer from years ago. Yeah, it does look like intentional incompetence. I mean, Yeah, Aaron, you're saying, I wish I'd shared your optimism, but from what the juror said from last time, they literally figured, well, since they were there at the same time, he's dead, so was her, scary stuff. Yeah, I mean, I would say that that does sound scary to me as well. And I know in Massachusetts they limit jury selection a whole lot more than other places I've been to. Each judge can do it different. Each state can do it different. Local rules may have it different than other areas of the same state, and the federal courts can be different. But it's really important to make sure that people you don't have some kind of knuckleheads on the jury. And I think that's what this judge is going to do. Try to make sure this whoever comes in the door, as long as they don't know the parties and they haven't have preconceived ideas to guilt, then they're pretty much going to try to keep them on the jury. So yeah, that can be a scary proposition. But I think that I think the biggest outlier and takeaway is you don't have a cop on the jury. Okay, so that guy should have been booted off, and of course the judge appoints him as a foreman. So that right there, this guy was able to work these people over. And all it takes is one person. I know Leslie said she was on a civil jury one time, and she was the only person that took one position. And by the end of the discussion, they all agreed with her. So it is easy to, if you have the right facts in front of you, the right person articulating those, you can get people to see a different version of stuff. So yeah, it can be a whole lot different this next go round. And I think what they're trying to do by the state is restricting all this form of evidence, whether it's expert testimony. They're trying to bring in stuff about what was going on with Turtle Boy, and they're trying to get sidetracked in all this minutia. And think about it, it's just basically what they're trying to say. It's like a hit and run DUI manslaughter case, and they're trying to crank it up to be a murder case, and it's just the whole thing is just absolute insanity. Giselle, you're saying there was a police officer that lives across the street with a Ring camera captured video in the morning, but mysteriously missing footage from that night. Yeah, that's another one of these oddities. Yeah, life's a bit. Defense really needs to clearly instruct the jury about reasonable doubt in openings and closings. IMO. Michael Cookson, oh my gosh, I hope the jury has more brain cells than the last one. Ava saying Proctor and Higgins were all over the taillight. Then Higgins showing up there at the Canton Police Department. So that right there tells you something. It's really, really, really circling the wagons, looking like there's something that they need to control. Chloe's mom, you're saying, how do you think Michael Proctor's firing affects the case? I do think that it's going to have a little bit different dynamics, and the thing is, I think he will cooperate, and I think he'll try to testify the same way he did last time. And what I would do differently if I was defense is that I would make him say all those bad words he called Karen. I was disappointed in Alan Jackson, him saying all those bad words, those nasty words he described Karen as. I mean, golly, a police officer, the lead investigator on a so-called murder case, has got that kind of language, wanting her to kill herself and all that kind of stuff. And so I would say that you don't have more damning stuff on anybody that's biased than that. You'll never find somebody more biased. So I would make him say all those words, and So we never heard those words come out of his mouth. They're all out of Jackson's mouth. So I think Jackson really missed it there. But John Feldman, you're asking how we donate to you. I don't have super chats on right now. And I understand it though, that could hurt the algorithms from distributing notices and stuff like that more. So I may go ahead and switch that where I do allow super chats, but I'm not here to get super chat money or anything like that. So if I do allow super chats, it's not because I'm asking for money. And so, and I really want to get the best questions answered, and I don't want to, basically have that driven by who's given the most money or anything like that. So anyway, but thank you for that offer. Yeah, that's the other thing. The car going to Canton, of all places, to go to the Canton Sallyport. That's just, they didn't have a high enough police engagement on this from the get go, and to have Proctor doing it when he's like knows these people, it just doesn't make any sense. You would compromise an investigation for a downed, killed officer, John O'Keefe, and treat his investigation this way, where you don't even do an investigation. The Solo cups, the paper bags from a grocery store or whatever it is. It's really, really bizarre. See, for me, you're saying they didn't really expect the case to reinvestigate. It was all about protecting people. Yeah, I mean, that's what it looks like. On the tethered methodology, you're saying her drinks are vodka and soda water, where she had more soda water added to the glass over the evening. They need to get the bartender in and their review the video. Yeah, if they even remember, they probably didn't even interview him at any point. James Lynch, you're saying the taillight wasn't smashed out until after Proctor towed it. That's what it looks like. Yeah, definitely. That's what it looks like. Another point of exoneration for Karen. F.R. Smith, you're saying one of the things you noticed in the first trial is how the timeline evolved for the Commonwealth. It seems like the details are changed by the Commonwealth to match their latest new info. How do you defend against that? Well, one of the reasons I'm having this on tonight and to talk about the timeline is to hold their feet to the fire and show that even the Commonwealth is got a moving target. And when they're saying this, this vehicle, this Lexus, was impacting on John O'Keefe's body. So it just shows they don't have any confidence in their own theory of what happened, because they don't know. They don't know exactly what happened. They're not willing to really dig in and start doing the heavy lifting to find out what really happened, instead of just taking people's word for them. Do some strong interrogation and get to the bottom of this. But there was never interrogation of any of the witnesses in the house. They just took their word for it. Did the interviews at their house and over the phone and stuff like that. They never had to go down to the police station and get video interviews and stuff like that. And then you're talking about an officer that was killed and they're saying it was murdered, and they don't even have the dignity to do that. Wristband ruler. Could the defense bring in a taillight and show how difficult it is to do that damage? They should be able to do something like that. I don't think they'll allow it in the courtroom, but if they do some kind of demonstration with an expert outside the courtroom, that should be allowed. But with this judge, they don't want it seems like they don't want the truth coming in, so maybe that would be kept out. But the way Brandon is working this thing, I think they'll do everything they can to keep out constitutionally required evidence. And, you know, one other thing that's really annoying, next time you hear Brennan talk, notice what he's saying about the Robert Alessi. You know what he calls him all the time? Alisi. That's not how he pronounces his name. Once in a while, you see Brennan, whatever you call it, slip up and call him Alessi, the way he pronounces his name. But I think it's one of these kind of digs at defense counsel, and a form of disrespect and all that. So if I was Alessi, I would you know, bring that up in court. Don't let him get away with that. Tell the judge he's intentionally doing that to discredit you in front of the jury. It's not so bad, I guess, not in front of the jury, but if he does that in front of a jury, that's, you know, he's setting a bad precedent, getting a bad habit of being allowed to get away with it. Bruce Wayne, you're saying the prosecution looks pathetic and weak. Let's see. B, Carl, why do you think Karen wasn't acquitted last trial? I think it's all because that you had confusing jury instructions, and you also had a cop foreman on the jury that just completely bamboozled them and didn't doing the stupid thing they did. And he was like driving home that you got to convict him of something. So he was trying to do basically horse trading and drug dealing type thing for jurors. So, and if you get people that are more followers on the jury, then you get those kind of people that get suckered that way when the evidence just isn't there. Mom of four, 57 Rose said, it's terrible that an in-depth investigation wasn't done for a police officer. It's terrible. Yeah, this I wouldn't even call this an investigation. It's more like a drive-by disaster. All right, and you're saying don't forget the Massachusetts criminal standard of to a moral certainty. To me, that means that you're sure as if you saw it happen yourself. They can't reach that burden. Yeah, if they really understand that. So yeah, I agree with other comments that they really need to drive home reasonable doubt, and hopefully they'll get an alibi instruction as well. Hank's lack of grace. You're saying at this point they're trying to prosecute her for exposing their corruption. Yeah, I mean that's one way of looking at it. And they're doubled down. They're not letting go. I mean, why is this Brennan on the case? They got 50 some prosecutors and they hire this guy. Life's a bit. You're saying what would be your strategy for educating the jury regarding reasonable doubt about the case? Thank you. You know, one of the things I would say is it depends how much you're allowed to actually have a dialogue with the jury members and how much individual one-on-one you can do and how much you're allowed to talk about your you know, the theory of the case or different types of evidence, how the jury views that. But I don't think this judge is going to allow any of that. And so I think you probably have your best shot to really describe reasonable doubt and then just really walk them through the timeline and then walk them through all the different lies of the different witnesses and then, you know, argue home why would people that have nothing that should have nothing to hide have so much to hide, and that right there is reasonable doubt. And Karen's behavior was consistent with everything she said has happened. Nothing that the other prosecution key witnesses have described is credible and reliable. And so based on that alone, you got reasonable doubt. There was no investigation that was comports with any standard of criminal law due diligence. And so for them to have this kind of it's basically the most degrading, disrespectful thing the cops could have done to John O'Keefe. So if they're willing to do that to John O'Keefe, and then what does that say about what they're willing to do to somebody that's caught up in this machine like Karen Reed? Right, Billy, I'm really worried about the McAlberts and Commonwealth with the jury this time. They're going to try harder to stack the deck. It's scary. Yeah, but I think they need to be more street savvy and going against this guy Hank Brennan. That's all I can say. Darlene D, when this first happened, law enforcement said they had a video of her hitting him. That's information still out there, but the video is never produced. Yeah, that's true. I remember that as well. One of the things also is like these newer Lexus SUVs, they have backup cameras. Aren't those recorded as well? And that kind of black box thing that could exonerate her. Java time, you're saying the taillight pieces were found by multiple officers. Each one found a few from different sections of the taillight. That's suspicious. I agree. Yeah, this is not a matter about how well, Karen Reed is likable or not, what you think of her personal personality or her lifestyle or anything about her. This is really about what does the government have for evidence to try to prove the guilt of her, and they don't have it. They just don't have it. And all this shady testimony with the botched investigation that is not even an investigation. Yeah, Ghost, you're saying the Lexus 570 taillights have canine teeth. Christine, you're saying 47 pieces of taillight found over 3 weeks. That's mind-boggling. Yeah, 40 some. I mean, come on, you'd never find those kind of pieces. Yeah, Natalie, Jeannie, you're saying again, Jen Mack, hyper focus on John and where he should park, and all the phone calls afterwards not normal. And then you have that gap in time as well. And she doesn't come outside. She's looking outside. I mean, it's just very, very, very obsessive, bizarre behavior. Something doesn't add up. And that right there is reasonable doubt when you include all this stuff. This is a slam dunk, open and shut, reasonable doubt case. Angela P, you're saying it's common sense that taillights don't explode in 47 pieces when in contact with the human arm and cause no bruising or broken bones, just abrasions. Yeah, it's really amazing that they think people can be this stupid to believe this stuff, right? Not sure if I'm going to be at Donna's trial. It's sort of like a wasted effort. She should have been tried and convicted with Charlie and others. And so it's really one of those deals. I'll probably do the daily coverage or at least a wrap up in the evenings. And it's really sort of demoralizing to think that it's taken this long to bring her to trial. And they still only have half the Adelsons to go. Or I should say they've only accomplished conviction against half the Adelsons. Angela P, you're saying no one saw a 6-foot+ man lying in the lawn. Come on. Yeah, I agree with that. Tommy Mann, you're saying Alessi's going to make the difference. He's so methodical. All right. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and exit stop screen. Sorry about that. Should have exited that a while ago. But anyway, you guys got the gist of this alibi issue. Yeah, the chain of custody, Natalie, you're saying discussed last night, chain of custody, reasonable doubt with the evidence. I mean, the evidence is just not there to get any kind of conviction. Any prosecutor knows that. They're just there's other agendas going on behind the scenes. Sherry D, yeah, the jury questionnaire, it's just all vanilla stuff. There's nothing but generic stuff about there. You're not going to get a good jury just going by that questionnaire if you can't ask a lot of follow-up detailed questions about views of different things, like the credibility of law enforcement officers. If they have more credibility, automatically more credibility by virtue of their position than any other witness coming into the court to testify. Mimi Love Good Law, you're saying, am I the one that was just on the young juror? So I was there a couple of times in the last couple of weeks. Dee's asking, could I please address how the broken taillight pieces were found under the snow and fragments of the taillight in John's Close? I mean, the way that worked out, where they weren't able to find all the pieces at one time. It just looks like stuff was planted there. That's what it looks like. If they can't find all that stuff at the first get-go, they should have secured the crime scene. If they believed it to be the crime scene right there, that deserved to go over it with a fine-tooth comb. And they didn't call in the right crime scene units to forensically investigate this. So it's like they didn't want the forensics to really reveal what happened. So that's what it looks like. I'm getting behind here in questions, but you guys got good questions. I'm going to try to speed up here. Yeah, Proctor, I think, he's probably going to still fight it civilly. I said that last night. So I think he's going to try to maintain his composure and try to be cooperative because he's hoping to get his job back, maybe through some litigation. Tommy Manor, you're saying the judge is the biggest hurdle for the defense. It's a huge hurdle. Yeah, when you can't, when you got your basically arms tied behind your back between the prosecution and the judge. Don Madden, you're saying the Lexus cannot achieve 24 miles an hour in the snow in reverse due to traction control. That's an interesting theory. I've not heard of that. Does anybody know anything about traction control? I'll have to do some research on that. Let me write that down. Traction control. Let's see. Olivia Nile, you're saying, from my experience, how common is it for the state to do background checks on prospective jurors? I think it all depends on locality. That's something that is normally not done. On a murder case like this, you got all that politics going on in that part of the country. They probably are doing that kind of thing. Giselle, you're saying there's another Sally Port much closer. Yeah, I think there's two of them actually closer. Hank's Lack of Grace, you're saying the car going is the Canton Sally Port was a huge red flag for you. Okay, Rabbit, you're asking who Proctor is. He's the lead detective on this case that was fired based on the way he handled this case. The way he treated Karen Reed is absolute, just the most disgraceful way you can see a officer treating someone. Deborah Claire, you're saying when a nefarious police officer is fired, they usually try to take her involved with them, in your opinion? I've seen that happen before. There was a case that it was a murder case in Iraq, and let's see, several people are aware of this murder of a prisoner, Iraqi prisoner, and lo and behold, they kept it under wraps for several years. And when somebody else got busted, then they through their counsel, they reported the murder to law enforcement to cut a better deal for their present crime they were accused of. And then in the end, there was like four or five people that are all charged with as co-defendants in a murder case of, I think, two different Iraqi prisoners. So here, I would say that can happen, but I just think Proctor's gonna try to save his neck and try to fight out in civilian courts. Glenn Prose, you're saying Jim the clerk had only pro Karen juror numbers in the jury barrel. Even chat GTP 1.1% chance in sound physics. Nancy 27 saying you really enjoy the analysis, and most of the things that drove me crazy during the trial you seem to think wrong too. Okay, yeah, I mean, it's just a lot of this stuff that, you know, if it just sits wrong in your gut and leaves you a disgusting feeling about the unfairness of it all. Yeah, your instincts are right. You have a sense of justice. Hopefully this next jury has a sense of justice. Island Girl, you're saying each lawyer announces themselves at every appearance, no excuse to mispronounce. Yeah, it's a way to dig at the other lawyer. Jill Argus, you're saying unless he's a brilliant attorney, but he puts you to sleep. Well, he hasn't been in front of a jury yet either. So I agree sometimes during his motions, things like when he was doing the motions regarding the issue with whether there's deception to the court by Alan Jackson. I think, yeah, that was really, really slow and drawn out. It was painful to watch, but he's been speeding it up lately, I think. And in front of a jury, I think he may have a different persona. But yeah, he's definitely a sharp guy. Rosemary Gallagher is saying everyone was confused by jury instructions, including the defense team. Yeah, I remember listening through some of that, and I was like, "Oh, Jackson has some good points because this like sounds like a jumbled mess." Leah Baker, you're asking, what are your thoughts on jury type of impanelment by Canoni? Yeah, I mean, I think she's going to try to get it over with as quick as possible, and that's not good for the defense. Nene Brown also thinks the investigation was done in a way it was intentional. Nancy 27, you're also saying there are auto attaching John Wi-Fi is, in my opinion, really, I mean, this is huge. This is a huge thing. It proves her alibi through the government's own witnesses that they tracked down. It proves her alibi that she wasn't there. And there's too many people going in and out of the house at that time for John to have been hit and nobody's seeing it. Then you have Eagle Eye Jen, like a hawk, watching that outside that door, the front door of the Albert house. So yeah, there's no way she was there when he got beat to smithereens. All these butt dials. Yeah, I didn't mention the butt dials tonight. Yeah, that's another thing. I mean, this just outrageous, crazy behavior of all these government witnesses. KSF, you're saying anyone who looks at the evidence, they can see Karen is being framed. Is that civil dining close call? Yeah, thanks for bringing in the facts tonight. You guys are sharp. Appreciate your professionalism. Not here to get ugly and resort to Proctor type names for people. That's not appropriate. We're trying to have a courtroom type dialogue here. Okay, Olivia, now you're saying Karen Reed's EDR data, black box showed no events. Leah Baker, Brennan's playing dirty street smarts. Yeah, I mean, you got to have, I would say the current defense team does not have the kind of normal street smarts that I would like to see Karen Reed have. So that's one of my concerns. Because yeah, they're going for the jugular. They're looking to bring these guys down one way or the other. Yeah, if Lady D2, you're saying if exactly 100 if you're questioning reasonable doubt. I mean, you could make a list. Let's go down a list of all the areas of reasonable doubt for this case. Chain of custody issues. I mean, you could go on and on and on and on and on. This is like F.R. Smith, you're saying the longer this case goes on, the more obvious the judge's bias becomes. What are the guardrails, remedies that are for such a lack of judicial impartiality? I mean, there's really nothing you can do. You're stuck with this judge unless she, retires or somehow says, I don't want to take this case, or get some kind of medical reason to take a leave of absence or something like this. Really nothing you can do about it. Yes, I'm aware of that. The judge's brother is a lawyer for one of the Alberts. I've seen numerous reports of that. I think he was charged with vehicular manslaughter as well, similar type of charge. Natalie Joni, you're saying my discussion last night about reasonable doubt with chain of custody and the evidence is what the defense needs to do. I think there can be more outrage and disgust and righteous indignation in the closing arguments and opening statement for the defense. Dusty Blue, you're saying it's a slam dunk case of reasonable doubt, yet judge seems to be throwing wrenches and blockages to this trial being a fair and impartial. Wonder why. I think it has to do with her ties to Morrissey. Supposedly Morrissey got her the job when he was a state senator, appointed her to judgeship, and or at least was instrumental in that. And I don't know if that's true, but that's the kind of thing I've seen happen, where that kind of loyalty then is paid back in many dividends to the person that nominates you, helps you secure the position. Little Miss Red Velvet can't sleep. Yeah, the Commonwealth is defending the Alberts. That's true. And they got their own lawyers as well. Yep, John's helping out. He's here tonight. Thanks, John. It's also John's birthday tonight. So, John, thanks for helping out at your birthday there while you're in California. Thanks, Lou. Carrie Retchless, you're saying, can you tell us why they aired the document before the trial is over? I think they did that because it generates the most interest. If he's already found guilty, then there's not going to be as much people wanting to follow it. So I think they did it where they can get the most views, and it's a smart strategy from that standpoint. But is it helpful to defense? No, I think they didn't think a hung jury would happen, and so that's why they went ahead and did it. But I don't think there's really anything that's going to affect the ultimate outcome of the case. I know Bev is biased as saying, can they have her recused from this case? Not unless there's something personal going on. I know in Philadelphia, there was a case a former assistant U.S. attorney was telling me about when we were working on the Guantanamo terrorist cases, that there was a defendant that kept on picking fights with the judge, and the judge would have to recuse themselves for it. And it wasn't the kind of stuff, I guess, that would be criminal, but doing kind of different kind of crazy things to I guess create a personal conflict with the judge. They got multiple different judges that way, and they're trying to avoid going to trial. But that's obviously not something you want to do on a case like this. It's not going to help you out in the end. But yeah, you cannot ask for a worse judge for this case than what we got here. I just don't trust the fairness and the. I mean, it's like the Constitution and Bill of Rights are just pretty much chucked out the window on this case. Jennifer Rank, you're asking what safeguards are available to protect citizens from this type of prosecution. Really, unless you got a good defense attorney or team of defense attorneys, you don't have anything. You don't have anything. So those of you that think, well, how can you defend guilty people? Well, there are innocent people as well, and if their people are on the prosecution side going after them that bad, and you have a judge that's not calling the balls and strikes properly, then you can easily be railroaded. I've said that all it takes is any combination of a bad prosecutor, a bad judge, a bad defense counsel, a couple of members that are bad on the jury, or just one bad member on the jury, and you could have an innocent person in America go down and get convicted. Okay, Jesse Bill, you're asking why can anyone share why in Massachusetts, the Commonwealth, the defense can't pick jurors? I find this odd. Well, it's not a matter of picking who you want; it's more striking who you don't want. And so you have to have reasons why you want to have people kicked off, either peremptory, meaning you don't have to have a basis for that, or for cause, meaning you do have a cause, and peremptory, you have a certain allotment, like maybe 3. Most jurisdictions have 3. You can strike for any reason. You don't have to say a reason why. For cause, you have to have a rational basis for why you're striking them. So, like if the prosecutor tried to strike all females from the jury pool, they would have to give a gender neutral reason why they're trying to strike the females, kind of thing. Nick Smith, you're asking, if I explain where John's body was found and where Karen's SUV was parked, too much reference to the front yard. Well, the body was like in the front yard, a couple feet away from the curb, and it was laying near the flagpole. So if you look at the front yard area where the flagpole is, there's also some other bushes and trees along the fence line there between that house and the house to the left of it. And so his body was seen right there, really close to the road. Karen's SUV was parked directly outside the front of the house when she was waiting for John. And then from that point, she wound up leaving. And so this whole thing about her driving forward past the flagpole up to like where the neighbor's yard is, as Jen McCabe is describing, happened. When she's saying that happened, it didn't happen, couldn't have happened, because Karen's was already picked up on the Wi-Fi at John's house, which is like a 6-7 minute drive away. So I trust that Wi-Fi link up way more than I would ever trust what Trooper Paul was saying about the vehicle data. Little Miss Red Velvet, you're asking what I think about Karen doing the documentary and being aired before second. I just don't like it. I think publicity is bad, especially if you're showing behind the scenes what you're doing as defense counsel. It's just not. It's not something that uh, I think is beneficial in any way. Maybe you're going to get more funding, and that's maybe the only thing that helps you out. But maybe somebody look at Karen and they think, well, we didn't like that kind of answer. We didn't like the way she came across. I think she's sort of the kind of person that sort of just um, shows her personality, doesn't really hide anything of that sort. And so there's some different things she said that I can understand why some people would say, I don't really like that comment of her, and they could form a negative opinion of her from that. But in the end, it comes down to, what does the state have for evidence? This is not a likability test that we have here. So yeah, I didn't mention microdots last night. You all should check out microdots. They do a lot of different things. Um, okay, Rob, you're saying she doesn't have an alibi. Her defense is 30 people framed me in, two different police agents, all for what motive? I do think she was overcharged with secondary murder. Okay, well, you at least can see the secondary murder charge. So, okay, so ask yourself, why would they be motivated to bump it up secondary murder when there wasn't any kind of type of murder evidence in this kind of case, and it wasn't 30 people framing. It's all these people that are all friends with each other, number one, and they're all cops. So if they're friends of cops and they are cops, and the cop is dead on the front lawn, and you have all these people acting so bizarre, it's not 30 people out to frame her. There's 30 people trying to cover their tracks, and you have different police agencies, but they all work together. Even Trooper Paul, he works there out of the Canton office, even though he's a state police officer. He's not a Canton police officer. Even he is beholden to help and support the Canton Police Department. If he's told by Lieutenant Tully that this is what happened to crime at this crime scene, that's what he's going to follow up on his report. He's a young, inexperienced kind of guy, and he's going to do what he's told. So that's exactly what happened. And I think that's something the defense counsel could also probe more on cross-examination about his loyalty to the local police department there in Canton. They didn't touch on that at all. Charlie, you're saying if this is a setup, could Proctor make a deal with the feds and get immunity to testify? It doesn't even have to be a spoken conspiracy for something like this if it was going to go down. And I'm not pointing the fingers at anybody saying, like the defense is saying, hey, it was these three in the house that we think did it. I'm not even going to go there. I'm just talking about the reasonable doubt aspects. And so we don't know exactly what happened, what went down. And so they're trying to point the finger at who they think done it for this third party culprit defense. But I think that there's so much reasonable doubt anyway, and so being in the position to actually name who they think did it, that could sort of like have some drawbacks to it. So I think the main focus should be reasonable doubt, and with that, it's a slam dunk win for the defense, assuming you don't have some jury that's been compromised or tampered with, or just is drinking the government Kool-Aid. Yeah, I would I've gone against some dirty prosecutors before. Yeah, I would um you need to have a guy that's willing to go toe to toe with a guy that's doing the kind of stuff Hank is. He's, like I say, he's out for blood, and you better know how to counter people like him, because he's not going to give up. I mean, he's going for the jugular, and he's not going to give up. Olivia Nile, you're saying a post about Judge Cannoni's brother being Chris Albert's attorney on my Twitter a while back. It's just insane how incestuous the connection between these people are. It really is. And so this guy that you're saying that there's 30 people conspiring. No, it's the sort of people circle the wagons. That's how this stuff works. Don't have to prove it even. That's what happened. We don't have to know that's exactly what happened. It just looks suspicious as all get out. And that's all there is for reasonable doubt on this case. So their actions alone speak volumes as to how they're very much trying to control the script on what's coming out of that house and front yard. Ms. K, you're saying fact of the matter is what lead investigator says he knew that it was Karen Reed after speaking to 3 people before interviewing anyone in the house and attending the scene of the crime. Proctor, that's who. Yeah, I mean, it's just his mind was made up. They'd already told the script of what was going to happen, and Karen was the only target. So, right, with that, I think I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up here. Lon, you're asking, have you ever seen a jury willing to believe police corruption? You know, I'm thinking of one case I had. It was a case where the cop was sort of out of control, and I had him on another case that I had a motion to suppress on, and the judge found that he was not credible, that he had basically fabricated a reason to pull somebody over, and it was a drunk driving accusation, and the person got their charges dismissed because it was an illegal stop. You have to have probable cause to stop a vehicle, and in this particular case, the officer he did something and opened a door, and then I brought up the fact that the judge had found that he had lied in his testimony, and so that was a not guilty on that case. So overall, police corruption. I think police incompetence is more easy to buy than police corruption per se. That's why I don't know that you need to really point the finger at who actually did it. But I think the most common thing people think, if it's not Karen, is they're going to think something happened in the basement and something happened with the dog. That's what I think most reasonable people would conclude. All right, somebody's talking about Xanax here. Yeah, I would say I have strong opinions on benzos. So anybody suggesting those, I tell you, there's go to any YouTube or Facebook withdraw support groups, and you'll see the hell they go through trying to withdraw from them things. Keep in mind that's what the Adelsons were on, popping his Xanax like crazy. Somebody asked here what I only think about an hour for closing arguments. Yeah, that's absolutely a real shocker. I know it happens in civil court a lot, but to have it in criminal case, a case of this magnitude, somebody's life on the line, and you're going to limit them to an hour, that's pretty much an indicator. It's not really that much about justice up there. It's just get the docket moved along. Okay, then I'm going to go ahead and sign off, and then y'all have a great weekend. I do plan on coming back over tomorrow night, covering some of the motion stuff, and just cover more how out of control this courtroom is, and you just don't really see anything like it, and to have this front and center for y'all to see how bad things get in a courtroom to railroad people's rights. That's the only beneficial thing for this case, is you can really see stuff that you normally only see behind the trenches. It's not normally the kind of stuff that makes the news. So for this case to have live coverage, it's really a great thing, and it's I guess the only redeeming thing we've seen in this case so far. So in any event, more to follow, and maybe I'll see y'all here tomorrow night. Until I see you again, y'all be safe. Take care. Good night.